There are two kinds of guys you fall for: the ones who want you back, and the ones who just want to feel wanted.
I thought I understood that. I really did. I thought I could handle being close without crossing the line. I thought I could manage the ache, the electricity, the way his voice could split me open just by saying my name. But when you share a roof with someone with eyes that linger just a second too long, with arms that know the weight of your silence, you start to lose track of what the rules were in the first place. It didn't happen all at once. It was little things at first. The casual closeness that didn't feel casual to me. The way he sprawled on the couch beside me, his thigh pressing into mine like it meant nothing. The way he'd fall asleep during movies with his head against my shoulder. I told myself it was just how he was. Just him being comfortable. But it was me who couldn't breathe right when he got too close. By the end of this story, you'll know exactly how it feels when the lines blur between friendship and something more. He moved in after breaking up with his girlfriend, said he needed a place to crash for a bit. That bit turned into months. I remember the first night he showed up at my door, backpack over one shoulder, eyes red-rimmed but trying to play it cool. "You sure it's okay?" he asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Of course it was okay. It was more than okay. I had imagined him living here more times than I'd admit to anyone, just never like this. Never as the broken version of himself. The first couple weeks were easy. We talked late into the night, mostly about nothing. Music, movies, memories from college. He'd sleep on the couch, blanket tangled around his legs, mouth slightly open like he was still half arguing with someone in his dreams. Then one night I woke up to the sound of his door creaking open. At first, I thought I'd imagined it. Then I felt the mattress shift. "Hey," he whispered. I turned on the lamp. He was standing there, shirtless, sweat across his collarbone. He looked vulnerable, like a kid. "I had a weird dream," he said. "Mind if I—" His voice trailed off like he was hoping I'd fill in the blanks. I scooted over without thinking. He climbed into my bed, turned away from me, and said nothing else. His back was warm, familiar, and I didn't sleep at all. That was the first time. It wasn't a one-off. Some nights he'd come in without saying anything, just lift the blanket and crawl in. Other nights, he'd tell me what the dream was, always vague, always ending with him waking up afraid. I never asked why he came to my bed. Maybe I didn't want to know. It wasn't just sleeping either. There were nights he'd shift closer. His arm would end up across my chest, or I'd wake up to find his hand resting low on my stomach. The first time it happened, I froze. Was he awake? Was I imagining it? Should I move? I didn't. I let the silence stretch. I told myself it didn't mean anything, that he was dreaming, that it was just instinct, heat, proximity. But it meant something to me, and that's where the danger started. Because I stopped being able to lie to myself. I wanted him. Not just sexually, though yeah, that too, but more than that, I wanted this. The closeness, the quiet domesticity, the way he'd laugh with his whole body when I made something stupid for dinner, the way he'd text me from the living room because he didn't want to yell, the way his eyes softened when he was half asleep like he was some other version of himself, softer, sweeter, mine. And it didn't matter how many girls he texted. It didn't matter that he called himself straight. He kept coming back to my bed. One night he was drunk, not sloppy, not out of control, just warm and loose and talkative. We'd been out with some friends, and I could tell something was off. He kept glancing at me like he was trying to decide something, like he had words pressing up against his throat that he didn't know how to say. Back home, I tossed him a bottle of water and asked if he was good. "Yeah," he said, "just tired." But he didn't go to his room. He followed me into mine, sat on the edge of the bed, eyes on the floor. "I used to have nightmares a lot when I was a kid," he said, like it was some random memory. "My mom would let me crawl into her bed. I always felt safe there." I didn't say anything. He looked at me then. Really looked. And the room went so still. I could hear the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. "Do you think that's weird?" he asked. I shook my head. Then he said, I sleep better next to you. And something in me broke. But I didn't show it. I just turned off the light, rolled over, let him slide in beside me, let his arm wrap around my waist like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I stayed awake all night, staring at the wall, wondering how many more nights I could survive like this. The hardest part wasn't the nights, it was the mornings, because in the dark everything felt suspended, unspoken, maybe even sacred. But when the sun came up, when his phone buzzed with some girl's name, or when he got out of bed without even looking back, that's when the cracks started to show. He never kissed me, never touched me in a way he couldn't explain away, but somehow the absence of those things made it worse. It meant he knew. He knew how close he was getting to a line. He knew I wouldn't stop him. He knew I wanted it, and he never gave me enough to hope, but never pulled far enough away to let me heal either. It was the kind of slow, emotional starvation that doesn't kill you all at once, just bite by bite. One morning, I couldn't take it anymore. He was brushing his teeth in the bathroom, his shirt lifted just slightly over his hip as he leaned against the sink. I stared at the curve of his back, his neck, the casualness of his entire body in my space like it belonged here, like he belonged here. And I said it. "Why do you keep sleeping in my bed?" He paused, turned off the faucet, spit. "What do you mean?" he said. But he knew what I meant. I could hear it in his voice. I stepped closer. "You've got your own bed. You have for months. You only come into mine when you've had a bad dream or you're drunk or I don't even know anymore." He leaned back against the counter, avoiding my eyes. "I don't know," he said finally. "It just feels easier." "Easier," I laughed, but it came out cracked. "For you?" That got his attention. He looked at me then, really looked, like he was trying to piece something together, like I was a puzzle he hadn't realized had sharp edges. "I didn't mean," I shook my head. "Don't. Just don't." I left before I could cry, locked myself in my room and told myself I'd start setting boundaries. That night, I kept my door shut, but sometime around 3 a.m., I heard his footsteps outside. A soft knock. I didn't answer. He waited. I could hear him breathe, could feel the weight of him on the other side, undecided. Eventually, he walked away, and I cried into my pillow, because it was the first time I realized I was the one doing this to myself. A few days passed. He was colder, or maybe I was. Either way, the air in the apartment felt different. He stopped staying up late with me, stopped letting his shoulder brush mine, stopped lingering. It should have made things easier, but it just made me lonelier. I started second-guessing everything, wondering if I'd imagined the intimacy, if maybe he just needed comfort and I'd warped it into something else, something selfish. But then came the night that changed everything. It was raining. Hard. The kind of rain that feels like it's trying to drown the world. I was in bed, headphones in, trying to distract myself. The knock at the door startled me. I pulled the buds out. "Yeah?" His voice was low. "Can I come in?" I hesitated. "I don't know if that's a good idea." He didn't respond. Then, softly, "I won't stay if you don't want me to." I opened the door. He looked like hell, drenched from the storm, hoodie stuck to his skin, eyes tired in that way that wasn't about sleep. He stepped inside, didn't sit, just stood there, shifting his weight. "I didn't mean to mess with your head," he said. "I swear." I nodded. I didn't trust myself to speak. He ran a hand through his wet hair. "I've been really lost, and you're the only place I feel safe." I looked at him. My chest hurt. "I'm not a safe place if it's hurting me." His face twisted. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I almost told him to leave. I should have. But instead, I said, "Then why do you only want me when you're afraid?" The silence after that felt like a free fall. He looked away, said nothing. And in that silence, I realized the truth. He didn't have the answer. Or maybe he did, and it was just too cruel to say out loud. So I turned around, climbed into bed, and left the door open. He stood there for another minute, then left without another word. He never came back to my bed after that. He still lived there for a few more weeks, but something shifted permanently, like we'd both seen something too clearly to unsee it. And I wish I could say we had a big talk, that it came clean, that he said he felt something too, but no. He just started sleeping in his own bed again, and I started learning how to sleep alone.
There's a kind of heartbreak that never gets a name. It's not a breakup. No one cheated. No promises were made, so none were broken, but it still guts you. That's what this was. It was watching someone drift away from something they never admitted they were reaching for. It was grieving a closeness that had no label, no justification, no reason to matter as much as it did. But it did matter. And pretending it didn't, that was the part that almost broke me. He moved out quietly. No big goodbye, no dramatic fight, just a half-hearted thanks for everything and a box of leftovers in the fridge. I helped him carry his things to the car. He hugged me like he didn't know what he was holding. I didn't hug back. I just stood there, arms limp at my sides, breathing in the scent of his hoodie for what I knew would be the last time. And then he was gone. The apartment felt too big after that. Not physically, but emotionally. Like his absence was louder than any conversation we'd ever had. I kept expecting to hear his laugh from the kitchen, kept finding little pieces of him in places I wasn't prepared for, his favorite mug, a playlist he left on my speaker, one sock I'd never seen him wear but somehow couldn't throw away. And worst of all, the space on the bed where he used to sleep. That space haunted me. Because no matter how much I tried to reclaim it, it still felt like his. I told a friend about it months later, told them the whole story, how it started, how it ended, how nothing was ever really said, but everything was felt. They asked me the question I've been asking myself over and over. Do you think he knew? I think he did. I think he felt it too, in his own way. But I also think he was scared. Scared of what it meant. Scared of what it might say about him. Scared of how it might change everything if he ever admitted he wanted me back. So he never did. He just took what he needed and left before it could mean more. And I let him. I still think about those nights. The warmth of his body next to mine, the way he'd fall asleep with his hand resting lightly on my chest like he was trying to anchor himself in a storm, the way I'd lie there frozen, afraid that if I moved even slightly he'd remember I wasn't supposed to be the one he needed. There were moments, tiny, flickering, cruel moments, where I could almost believe he loved me. But love isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's cowardly. Sometimes it hides in the dark and never learns how to speak. There's this one memory I keep returning to. I don't know why. It wasn't even dramatic. It's just a Tuesday night. We were watching some stupid horror movie. He had his head in my lap. My fingers were in his hair absent-mindedly. He looked up at me, eyes half-lidded, and said, "You're the only person I feel okay around lately." I smiled. He didn't. He just blinked like he wanted to say something else, but didn't. And I never asked. Maybe that was the moment I should have. Maybe that was the moment it all could have changed. Or maybe it already had, and we were both just pretending not to notice. I don't blame him anymore. I used to. I used to sit with that anger like it was armor, telling myself he was cruel, that he used me, that he knew exactly what he was doing. But the truth is messier than that. I think he was just as lost as I was. I think we were two men craving connection in a world that never taught us how to ask for it from each other. He found comfort, I found hope. And neither of us found what we really needed. But for a little while, we had warmth. For a little while, I got to feel like I mattered to him, even if it was only in the dark. He kissed me once. But I've lived every day since like it never happened.